Finally, the Tissot PRX Powermatic 80 review. Now, I know that a lot of people have done reviews on the Tissot PRX Powermatic 80, but this is going to be unlike everyone out there. Well, at least the next video will be, because I have several other integrated watches to include a Citizen Soyosa, to include a Casio, MTP integrated bracelet, to include an IDXAO, Engineer. I have these watches that go from ultra affordable to luxury that I will be comparing after the Tissot PRX Powermatic 80 review. This is going to be a giveaway to one of my subscribers. You got to be a subscriber. I will be doing the giveaway on June 1st. So we're going to be slightly past 15,000 subscribers, but on June 1st, I will drop the video of the winner of this watch, but you got to be a subscriber. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and let's hop into the video. And finally, it's here, the Tissot Powermatic 80 40mm. Now, this is going to be my 15,000 subscriber giveaway. And the reason I did it is this watch has been all over the internet like a $2 hooker. Well, not this watch specifically, but of course the model of watch. And because of that, you know, I was really hesitant to actually do a review, but the reason why I wanted to do a review is not just to give it away to one of my subscribers, but also do a comparison of other entry-level integrated bracelet watches. And I say that because I haven't seen a whole lot of videos that give you the ultra affordable, like the Casio MTP integrated bracelet, all the way up to like my Cartier Santos, my Santos de Cartier, which is, you know, one is 5,000, the other one was 6,000 used. So I wanted to give you guys a really good integrated bracelet watch video. That one is going to be coming out in about a week. But today we are talking about this, the famous Tissot PRX Powermatic 80. This thing comes in at about $750. I picked this up for about $500. So do not pay full price for this watch, but having it in hand, I'm actually pretty upset that I'm going to give it away because this thing is just as good as everybody is talking it up. So let's talk about all the dimensions first, then we'll get into the details, the pros and cons. This watch is 40mm in diameter, has a case thickness of 10.9, so just under 11, has a lug width, well, not really, because it is an integrated bracelet. It has a lug to lug, two different lug to lugs that I measured here. From the case lug to lug, it's 44mm, but if you look at the way the bracelet curves down, this to this is actually 50. So it does wear a little larger. However, I know that you can get different type of straps for this watch. They do have leather straps and rubber straps for the Tissot PRX line. So if you did want to change the bracelet because you felt like it wore just slightly too big, then you absolutely can. One of the things I like the most about this is the attention to detail, not just in that waffle dial that you see here, not just the baton hands all the way around, and not just the pure fact that this has the Tissot Powermatic 80, which has 80 hours of power reserve. We'll get into that, but I like the way the light plays off the bracelet. I think they did a very good job with this integrated bracelet. It does have a very aggressive taper down, but one of the things I like the most is right here. It's the thickness of the bracelet. This reminds me of an Audemars Piguet because it's so thin. In fact, the bracelet thickness is 2.5 millimeters thick. It is not thick at all, which makes it wear very light on the wrist. This thing is smooth along the back. The finishing is great. Let's talk about the finishing. The finishing is done in different stages. You have a high polished bezel all the way around. You have brushed finishing, chamfered edges along the side, and the finishing is done quite nicely for a watch that you can pick up at $500. That's a Swiss automatic. I'm going to keep emphasizing the fact that this is a Swiss automatic. Tissot is an entry-level Swiss watch brand, but a lot of people think that Swiss watch brands are unobtainable, and they're absolutely not. And the Tissot brand, people have a lot of respect for, similar to Hamilton. You can see right here along the edge, it is brushed, but then you can see that along the case back right here, it's high polished. along the bezel. It's high polished, so it gives it a nice little pop even from the side. The brushing is the same throughout, so brushing along the case matches the brushing along the bracelet. And again, nice aggressive taper down to a butterfly clasp. I'm not the biggest fan of the butterfly clasp, and there is one more thing I don't like about the bracelet is the fact that they use push pins and not screw heads. I don't know if they only use push pins because the bracelet is so thin and they don't want to add thickness using screws, but you know, I understand why. I guess they did, cutting costs and whatnot. I just wish they would have used screws instead. Now let's talk about the dial, then we'll talk about the movement inside because the movement's a little tricky. And then we'll toss it on the wrist and I'll give you my true feelings at the very end. Now, the watch does have that beautiful waffle dial. Of course, again, it does have sort of like a royal oak feel to it. It's done quite nicely, even under the macro. Tissot, just under the 12. PRX Powermatic 80, just above the 6. Single batons all the way around, double batons at the 12. You have the date window here at the 3 o'clock position. Has a nice high polished window around it. Chapter ring along the outside. The waffle dial does give it a nice texture. The hands are done quite nicely. Everything on this watch is done quite nicely. It does have a sapphire crystal covering that dial. And inside is the Tissot Powermatic 80. Now let's talk about the Powermatic 80 and then I'll show you the reverse side of this watch, or I'll do both at the same time. So the Powermatic 80 is an 80-hour, 23-joule Swiss automatic movement. This movement is based off the ETA 2824. It is a very nice looking movement. Now the reason why they were able to get 80 hours of power reserve is because this is not a high beat movement. No matter what any website tells you, this is not a high beat movement. Now, when I was looking this up, it says that it beats at 28,800 vibrations an hour, which is not true. That means that second hand would be ticking at 8 ticks a second. Instead, you can clearly see that it has a slower beat to it. That's because they've lowered the beat rate from 4 hertz or 28,800 vibrations an hour to 3 hertz or 21,600 vibrations an hour, which means that it still has, you know, a great time reference. It's still very reliable, but you can see the second hand here ticks at 6 ticks a second. This is something that I noticed because I've had my hands on hundreds and hundreds of watches. I'm a watch enthusiast, and I knew the Powermatic 80 movement was regulated to a slower beat rate to get a higher power reserve, so you didn't have to add an additional barrel, thicken the watch, or anything like that. A lot of people don't know that, and a lot of people are, I guess, sold a falsity on some websites that say it's otherwise. So it is a decent movement. It does have the silicon or whatever, silicon hairspring, so it's more like a plastic hairspring, which people have complained over time that it's not going to hold up for the longevity of the watch like most Swiss watches should, right? When you buy a Swiss watch, it's supposed to be like a lifetime investment. If you take care of it, if you send it in for inspection and for service, it should last a lifetime. You can buy a $400 Hamilton, and with the ETA 2824-2 movement in it, it can be serviced relatively easily because the hairsprings are not plastic, right? Even though that may help with anti-magnetic features, in the end, it's going to cost more to just fix the hairspring if it breaks than it is just to replace the entire movement in the back. The whole point of having a watch that has the ability to have a life longevity to it is not just to replace the movement, it's to be able to repair the movement. So that's one of the cons that a lot of people say about Tissot and the Powermatic 80 and the Powermatic 80 series, and even some other higher end watch brands that don't use standard hairsprings. Just something to consider in the future. This is an entry level luxury watch, and for $500, It's hard to find something better other than something like a Hamilton. So they are offering quite a bit. There's just a few things to consider. So let's go ahead and toss this on the wrist. And here's the watch on my 7¼ inch wrist. You can see that it doesn't fit overly large, but it's also not overly small. And as I turn my wrist, you can see the play of light with the bracelet. It's just, to me, it's absolutely beautiful. This thing can be dressed up and dressed down. This thing would look great in a suit. Now the dial options, they do have other dial options. Just the blue is something that goes with mostly anything. And if I was going to do it as a giveaway watch, I wanted it to be a watch that can easily be worn with anything. You can see that it does not sit high on the wrist, so it's going to slip underneath any cuff, any jacket. This thing is going to look great in a t-shirt. Really, really happy with what Tissot has done with this. And there's a reason why the Tissot PRX has caused such a giant wave in the watch world over the last 2 years. Really glad I was able to get my hands on it. So let's wrap this up. Now, I truly do love Tissot. I love what the watch brand is doing, and I love the fact that they're able to do such a good watch at such a low price. A lot of people think that the Swiss luxury watch brands are unobtainable for generally everybody, but Hamilton is a very well-known watch brand. Tissot is a very well-known watch brand. Longines is a very well-known watch brand. There's a lot of these watch brands that are entry-level that still garner a lot of respect from other people in the watch community. You don't have to have a Rolex on your wrist for people to look down, or even a Cartier. That being said, buy what you love and love what you buy. If you don't love the watch that you've put your money into, get rid of it, trade it, sell it, buy something else that you love. Don't have something that you don't love because of somebody else. Now, the Tissot PRX scratched a lot of itches for a lot of people. People started seeing these integrated bracelets in Audemars Piguet, with the Royal Oak and other watch brands that are similar, the Nautilus, and there was a lot of hype for integrated watch bracelets. A lot of people would buy the homages of a Royal Oak or a Nautilus or something similar, and they just would never get the true feeling of having a branded watch like a Tissot PRX. Now, I think the Citizen, the Soyosa Small Second is, I'm trying to get this watch. It's hard. I don't have the money to buy it, but I'm trying to get it. I think Citizen is doing a very, very good job in the market right now at offering these entry-level watches, to include something like the Soyosa, that offer detail in the dial that even a brand like Tissot is having a hard time keeping up. That being said, a lot of people look at Citizen as a lower brand because it's a Japanese company and it's not a Swiss company, right? People think the Swiss brand is the best of the best. It's not. But if you want a Swiss watch that's introductory into luxury, the Tissot is really the way to go. Again, Longines great. Hamilton is great. I have a Hamilton khaki Big Pilot that's way too big for my wrist to wear. And I do love what Hamilton is doing, especially with their field watches. But when it comes to an everyday watch, the Tissot PRX just scratches all those itches. And just the pure fact that the bracelet is thin, it's very well built, the finishing is great. I'm telling you, it's a great watch, but always buy it at a discount. Don't ever buy it full price. You can find these things almost anywhere for about $500, which is amazing for a Swiss automatic watch. It really is. I really love where the market's going right now. The market's kind of down everywhere. But if you like this watch, pick it up, or you can be a subscriber and have the potential to win it on June 1st. That being said, there is, again, another video that's going to offer a comparison of like the Citizen My Soyosa, not the Small Seconds, the Casio MTP, all the way through. It's going to be affordable integrated bracelet all the way up to luxury integrated bracelet. There's 5 watches in the category. It's going to be a detailed review. Hit that notification bell to make sure that you guys get notified when I drop that video. Please hit the subscribe button. It's free. It helps the channel. Hit the like button. Really love the back and forth that I get in the comment section, and I'll see you guys in the next one.